Welcome to the Avro Heritage Museum podcast, supported by Museum Development North and Arts Council England.
Hello, and thank you for listening to this second part of our conversation with Craig Hadfield, Avro Heritage Museum member and volunteer. Today, we get the chance to hear how Craig met Martin Willoughby, whose father looked after Lancaster S for sugar and played the key role in restoring what was a deteriorating aircraft that stood guard at RAF Scampton to its former glory, going on to take a starring role in Bomber Command Hall at the RF Museum in London. It was his son Martin who crafted the replica of S for Sugar that has pride of place in our own museum. Craig relates some of his work with Martin and recalls a misty, atmospheric night parked up at Woodford. And he remembers the Woodford air shows and the alarm that Russian participants could sometimes create. But we started off by asking Craig about one of his big roles at the museum. The other big thing in the museum, Craig, that you very involved with is events, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
I don't really know how it all started, really. There was a lad here, a younger lad, and he was doing the events, and then he had a young family, I think. I think he just disappeared. And I got involved with it, with Richard, and we just built it up from there. And now my poor wife's got involved in it. And she does all the paperwork side and phones everybody up, and bless her, she's at it most nights, and people think like, oh, you organise a do, you only at it a couple of weeks before the do, but you're not. You know, as soon as one's finished, you're at it again. It's a complete cycle all year round, really. You know, she's on the phone last night for 2 hours to different people. Then I get told off if I've not done something she tells me to, I should have done, like, you know. But no, they seem to go out, the car shows. Wings and Wheels go as well. We've got a good friend who flies the Anson over for us, a good rate with the Battle of Britain. They fly over for us. So, yeah, we're getting hemmed in, but I think we'll have to do right-hand circuits now instead of left, because we can't really do left-hand circuits over the houses. We'll have to do right-hand circuits over the golf course, really, when we have some more flyovers. But the Lanc's not flying this year, so hopefully it'll be the Dakota they send to us. So we'll have to see.
It sounds like an obvious question, Craig, but how important do you think those events are for the museum?
Well, they make money for the museum, which we will need if we're, you know, when we get the extension. It's not an if now, because we have got planning permission. We'll need every penny we can get, and sometimes you can plan all year for it, and it's an absolute downpour all weekend, and you're sick as a chip, and you made a few £100. And then you can have a real good weekend, and you can make 18,000, something like that, which is good. So we made quite a lot of money last year because we had good weather. Even if it breaks even, it's not cost us anything, and it puts us on the map. People will say, oh, we'll come back again when it's not as busy. And you know, all the classic car people coming, oh, can our car club come on a private visit and all this? And, you know, it puts the museum on the map. And they say it's the best kept secret, this museum. Hidden gem.
We're lucky, I think, Craig, that at the museum there are lots of enthusiastic people, passionate people. What is it you enjoy most about working here?
I enjoy doing behind-the-scene tours for RAF people and people who've got a real good interest, you know, enjoy showing them around. If somebody asks me a question, I enjoy telling them about it, you know. The things that have happened and different things and what we've done and how the museum's come on. I mean, like saying when we first started, you know, we didn't have much, did we? You know, and look what we've got today. We've got a hell of a lot, haven't we? You know, plus we got the Typhoon, we got which I operate for Martin and the museum. And when we used to take the Lancaster to all different shows, the one that Martin built. So I always remember we were at Manchester, and I come back with the tractor, and I was waiting for Martin to come back with the Lancaster, and it was just going dusk, and the fog settled on the airfield, and it settled about 2-3 foot above the ground. And all the geese come in, and it was weird. They're all like shouting one another, like, and if some made a good landing, they seemed to make a different noise to ones that made a bad landing. It was like they were laughing at them, you know what I mean? And then the mist slowly come up, and it's level with the van window. It was really eerie, you know. I sat down here till about 10 o'clock on my own, waiting for Martin to bring the Lancaster back, because the winch had snapped on the blinking wagon, yeah.
So is it worth explaining, Craig? So Martin is Martin Willoughby?
Yes. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And it was his dad who was the ground crew who looked after
S for Sugar. Yeah, the famous Lancaster
Yeah. Which we've got the replica of.
Yeah.
And how did you meet Martin then?
It was when the RAF wanted the tractor and bouncing bomb at RAF Cosford, and Martin didn't have his Lancaster here then, I don't think, and he come to the museum and said that there's someone from the RAF had seen the tractor and bouncing bomb, and they wanted to take it to Cosford for a ground display with the Lancaster, and that's how relationship started. Mm-hmm. The work that Martin's done for aviation, and seeing he's quite poorly, his enthusiasm is unreal. You know, I mean, watch this space for his latest projects. You know, a busy person. And since then, we've took the other Martin Howdle. There's like 3 of us. We took a 1943 Matador to the new Battle of Britain Memorial Bomber Command at Lincoln, and Waddington asked us to take it there, and we actually just took it through Waddington gates, and they got their 1986 one lined up, and they got a brand new one lined up, and we slotted it in the middle. And I always remember the security guard saying, if you want to take some photographs, you can do. If you turn around with your camera, we'll take the camera off you. Because at the time, it was like rivet joint, wasn't it? They were doing rivet joints there and that. And they actually showed us around the museum there where they got a Lancaster that had crashed in Scotland, and it had been made here, and it was only 2 weeks old. And they'd given it one particular guy to fly, and he was actually on leave, and somebody else was flying his Lancaster, and he crashed it into the side of a Scottish mountain. And this guy was still living a few years ago, and they took him to see his plane, all the bits that brought down, and he'd built like a skeleton of a Lancaster, and like I did with the Pan Am 747, they were putting all pieces on it, like. And he said, what do you think of that then? And the 100-year-old turned around, he said, thank God I wasn't bloody well on it. Yeah. He said, my mate crashed my aeroplane, but he killed himself. Yeah. I mean, the air shows used to be absolutely brilliant.
Well, tell us a little bit about your memories of that. That would be good to
you know, it's there again, people probably laugh at it. I used to run home from school and get to the cottage, get the airband radio on. And I always remember the red arrows. And in them days, there were gnats. And good God, you know, they were so low. It was unbelievable. I remember the farmer next door to us, and he'd just rode up all his hay. And this red arrow flew over, and honestly, it just blew it all over the place. You know, whether it was coincidence and it was a whirlwind at the same time, I don't know, but I just couldn't believe it. And all the dye just blew across the field, and it's fantastic. Fridays and Sundays used to be better than the actual air show. And I always remember one night, the Friday night, 2 lightnings come in, and one must have been an instructor, and one must have been like a pupil that had not been flying the lightning that long. And one of them got down, and one of them did about 4 circuits before he got down. The other one was actually, could hear him on the radio talking him down. He sort of said, "Oh, come on, you can do it this time. You nearly did it last time. You're all right, get on with it. Crack on, be right, And he got it in. But when they'd left, the instructor went up so sharp, he caught his tail on the deck, and he had to come round and land again just to make sure it was all right.
Because there were big turnouts for those air shows. The crowds were big.
But it's damn well rained. It's such a shame. Always rain. But also when the what was it? The Russians come, and at the time I was working at the end of the runway, and it was just unbelievable. I think when they come in behind the support plane, and one was right behind it, and one was upside down. It just unbelievable. And then they come back up, and they did a display more or less over our yard, and it just, you couldn't believe what they were doing. You'd never seen an aircraft do that, you know. And Paul said to me, he says, "Are you on standby with the fire engine on the Sunday?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "I'm a bit worried about this support plane taking off." I said, "Why? What's up with it?" He said, "Have you been in it?" I said, "No, not yet." He said, "Have a look inside it." And the Russian support people that come with the plane, they were filling it with washing machines and God knows what. You looked at the tyres and they were through to the canvas. And I said, "What runway is it taking off on?" He says 07. I said, "What, straight into Woolley Avenue?" He said, "Yeah." I says, "Oh, right." So I told the lads at the fire station, and we actually went down to MU and watched it take off. Paul said what time it was taking off. And it seemed to come lined up at this end of the runway at the golf course, and it took the full runway. It was 3/4 down the runway, and it just seemed to just get off. And black smoke coming out of it was unreal. But Paul was quite worried he wasn't going to make it.
Wing and a prayer stuff.
Wing and a prayer, they'd loaded it up that much with stuff.
Craig, so thank you ever so much for giving up your time. We always
Not a
appreciate
problem.
that. But it would be great, if we can, maybe with Jane, do something, a separate little program, I think, about events, just to promote them, really.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah,
it'd be good.
Yeah, we've got like 3 or 4 car shows on this year, and the Wings and Wheels, and the Porties do.
Yeah.
Well, what made me laugh about the Porties do the other year, they got a phone call off these Russians, and they wanted to come and dig a trench and live in it all weekend. I thought, oh crap, dig a trench in Mr. Lomax's lawn, he won't be very happy. I said, no, you can't. And then you got the SS wanting to come, people dressed as SS, and that's not popular with a lot of people. So you think, oh, what do you do? And they get upset because they don't want them to come, and the English ones that dress as the English don't like them, and you think, oh God, you're going to end up with another bloody war here. So,
thanks, Craig.
Not a problem.
Jim and I really enjoyed that opportunity for Craig to share all those memories, as well as his insights into the recreation of important artifacts from the past that are such critical components in our own exhibits. Also, for explaining some of the intricacies and challenges of mounting major events for the museum. That's all we have time for now. If you wish to receive alerts when a new episode of the podcast becomes available, then please follow, like, or subscribe to the podcast and switch on push notifications on your device. And that way, you'll never have to miss an episode. It's goodbye for now, and please keep listening. Cheerio.
Make sure you follow us in your podcast app to ensure that you don't miss out on future episodes.